time. So we're setting things up to record this this discussion about the Global Earth Exchange on Facebook Live. So if you, for those who can't attend in person, it's going to be there. And once we start, we're also going to record it on, oh, it is recording now. We're also recording it on Zoom so that we can put it on YouTube. So I think we should go ahead and get started. And then if people join us in a little bit, then we will welcome them in. My name's Trebbe Johnson, and I'm the founder of Radical Joy for Hard Times and the director. And as you probably know, Radical Joy for Hard Times is a nonprofit organization. It's located in New York State right now, and but yet it's a worldwide community, a global community. And our mission is to notice and take care of and give attention to the places on the earth that most people tend to ignore or dismiss or even think about as taboo, those places that are hurt. And the Global Earth Exchange, which we're going to be talking about today, was actually, the first one was actually in 2010. And it was a few months after we had founded this organization. We were trying to think of a way to launch it that would be powerful and wouldn't just be about words, but would actually be putting into practice this this way of being on the earth that we had been talking about, the initial board had been talking about, of which Eugene, who's one of our guests today, was one. And so we decided to have an event where we would invite people to go to damaged places that they cared about and share their stories about what it meant to them to have loved this place and to now be mourning what had happened to it, to get to know it as it is now, as it was, and then to make a gift of beauty for it. And we had so many incredible events all over the world that we knew immediately that it needed to be not just a launch of an organization, but an annual event. And so that's what it's been. And this is our 12th one. This is our 12th Global Earth Exchange, which is really pretty amazing. And throughout all those years, the practice has pretty much remained the same. And we're going to be talking more about the practice in the course of this call. We just encourage people to go to places that they care about, to spend time there, and to give them beauty, to make a gift for them out of materials that they find on site. And contrary to what people think, they assume that it's going to be depressing to go to these places. It's going to make them feel worse. But I would say almost always what happens is that people come into a new relationship with a place. And I like to think about it as what we know about the human psyche, that if we try to ignore the places inside of us that are hurt, they don't go away, they don't get better, they just kind of fester, and we never make peace with them or with the wholeness of ourselves. And in that same way, when we make peace and give beauty and attention to the places on earth that are hurt, then we find wholeness and beauty and creativity in them and with other people who love them. And so this year, our theme is the Global Earth Gift Exchange, because we really want to emphasize, especially after this very hard year that we've all been through, that the earth gives to us, even when it's hurt. The earth gives beauty and resilience and inspiration and endurance, even when it's hurt, and as we give things back to the earth. So to share in the discussion today, I'm really happy to welcome two people who have been participated in a lot of Global Earth Exchanges and do a lot of amazing work in other ways in their lives. Eugene Hughes is the founder of Art Gym, an organization in London that has won many awards. He also created a film about migrants to the United Kingdom from other countries and their challenges. And he has a private psychotherapy practice, and he leads wilderness workshops and programs around the world. And Kinde Nebeker well, right now she sometimes lives in Salt Lake City. Right now she's in the gorgeous Kinde, I forget the name, Castle Rock, Utah. And she's a rites of passage guide with her own organization called New Moon Rites of Passage. She's also a designer, a graphics designer, a rock climber, an adventurer, and a writer. And they're both here with us. And so we're just going to sort of have a conversation about these things, show a few photos, and then at the end, there will be time for your questions. And if you have questions at any time during the course of this discussion, just write them in the chat, and we'll bring them up at the end. So Kinde and Eugene, I think the question that a lot of people would like to begin with is, how do you choose your wounded place? And what is a wounded place? How have you identified the ones where you did your global earth exchanges? So Eugene, let's start with you on this one.
Hi, hello everybody. I'm Eugene. Yeah, I guess maybe I can choose two. Like one, I live in London, and a number of years ago they did the Olympics here, and there was like lots of publicity about it, and everybody was really excited about it. But actually, so I used to cycle past the area, and so they were building all these big buildings and major constructions, and I don't know, I just couldn't get into the celebration. For me, it was like I just saw this piece of London just being concreted over. So for one of my earth exchanges, I just went there. I went to this kind of half building site, and kind of I was just on the edge of this building site with my friend, and that's where we did it, and it just felt right. And then last year, I was locked down in London, and so I did it in my backyard. And actually I thought, okay, that's a bit of a cop-out, is it? It's not really this kind of grand place of huge hurt, but actually it was really moving. Yeah, so it just kind of happened. Yeah, there was nothing dramatic. It just kind of happened. Yeah.
Yeah, so here's a photo, Eugene, of your gift of beauty for the Olympic site. Do you want to describe that? It's really a dramatic shot.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's so funny because it looks like a really dramatic shot, but there it didn't feel dramatic, you know, but actually it was one of those, it was just like a really raggedy place, you know, and like behind us was this big main road with juggernauts and traffic passing by us. And but actually, you know, I think it was more moving afterwards, because the more we thought about it and the more we saw the place being built upon and built upon and built upon over the years, it just became actually more and more moving. So I think that's really funny, you know, because you know, some earth exchanges I've done that's been really moving on the spot, you know, almost like kind of moving me to tears. It's just felt really kind of in the moment moving. But there, that experience was really different. You know, it was like the more myself and my friend who did the exchange there, you know, over the years, we just saw change and change and change. So that the experience we had took on a different level of meaning and pathos for us, actually. So it's always stayed with us. So I guess I find that really interesting, because like one exchange can feel really simple and feel really just kind of, but actually it stayed with me a long time. And then another can be really profound in the moment. Yeah. Yeah.
So Katie, can you show the one of Eugene, the one Eugene did last year with it's a collage that he and his friend Louise did together?
Yeah, so my friend, because she lives at the other side of London, and it's locked down. There's no way we could see each other. So we did it in our backyards, and then we exchanged. We made art, and then we exchanged it. And so that became a thing in and of itself.
So she's having a little bit of challenge finding it, but so we'll put it on when we can find it. It's a really pretty collage. So Kinde, how have you found your wounded places? You've done really a lot of different kinds of ones.
Yes. Am I unmuted? Now I can't.
Yeah, you're
Can
unmuted.
you hear me? Okay.
Mhm.
Yes. So, yeah, there is a little bit of an initial, oh, what am I going to do? I can't think of anything. I felt that every year, like, oh, can't imagine what I could do. And then I just start sort of looking around, settling in and looking around. Some years I've actually sent out emails and asked for suggestions from people as part of the getting the word out or wanting to gather a group to come. And there have been times when I've just asked somebody, or there have been just one or two people, and we've had some exchange to decide before. So there have been lots of different ways, but usually, as it goes with when you have an intention, something comes to mind. And I've just been open-minded about what it means to be in what a wounded place is, what a forgotten place is. And actually, when you start looking, there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot of different possibility.
So tell us about the ones you've done. I mean, one of the ones that we're going to show a photo of. I love the photo. You just went to a vacant lot with some of your friends, and yeah, that one.
Yes, so this is a vacant lot in a part of Salt Lake City that's called Sugar House. This was quite a number of years ago. And this lot, they tore down the old one-story buildings that were there. It's so interesting to look at it now. That Sugar House really wanted for a long time, they really wanted to keep the neighborhood small, walkable scale. And then there were some larger developers that had other ideas. And I don't know how many years that lot sat vacant, but that whole area, it was a very large area. It was vacant for a long, long time because there was fighting going on between the neighborhood and the developers. And, you know, it just felt like a sad place. So these friends and I gathered, and we each had some time to just walk around the lot, you know, like on a, you know, solo walk around around the lot. And then we came together and just talked about what we saw, what we felt. And then we spontaneously, not having any previous ideas or thoughts, we spontaneously decided, well, what are we going to do? And one woman, Jamie, the one on the far right, noticed that there was a puddle in the middle of the lot that was in the shape of a heart. It was there. And so we just outlined what was already there. She had brought with her actually a whole bunch of rose petals, and she sprinkled those around. And yeah, so it was a way to feel like we were getting to know this place that had been built on. It had been torn down. All the buildings had been torn down and then cleared away, and then the earth was showing for a little while. And now they've built on it higher stories, you know, 3 or 4 stories of mixed use, residential and commercial on the bottom. And that whole area now is really starting to get built up in Salt Lake City. And they're doing it in a pretty good way, but, you know, I miss the scale of that place.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to ask you to talk about the other one later, because it relates to the kind of effect that these events have on us. So
yeah,
thank you for that. And you know, and I want to just say that that people have done their global earth exchanges for all kinds of places, from a tree in the backyard that was infected by insects to bushes that honeybees don't visit anymore, to rice fields, to a melting glacier, to Superfund sites, which they did outside of the gates, obviously didn't go inside. I mean, it's just like any kind of place or species. They've done it for the ocean, for dolphins, for coral reefs, you know, any kind of place or animal or bird or insect or waterway or air. Somebody did it for the air because he was flying from Brazil to London that day, and he did it for the polluted air. You know, everything is a possibility. There's no, I really want to emphasize this, there's no right way to do this. It's really about you as an individual giving back to a place you love and being with it as you would with a sick friend, you know, and saying, I love you. I know you can't do what you used to do. You're down and out, and I'm sorry about that. And I still love you, and I recognize your beauty. I mean, that's really what it's about. So how do we say all this? How do we invite others? So before I'm going to ask Kinde and Eugene to talk about how you invite other people, because sometimes it's difficult. You know, this is not a concept that is easy to explain. It's not about going to a beautiful, pristine place. It's like, join me in going to a place that's hurt, that's damaged. How do you express that? And you can invite others, which they're going to talk about. And you can also go alone, which they've also, Kinde and Eugene have both done them alone, as have I, as have many people. So, so what do you tell other people? How do you explain it to others? So Kinde, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, I think that reaching people who already have a sense of this, that already have a connection. People, like the first year we did it, we did it at the Great Salt Lake, which is a salty lake in Utah. It's the remnants of a prehistoric lake, and it's kind of stinky down there. And people that live around the area know it's there, but they don't appreciate it, they don't see it. And at the time that this Earth Exchange was happening, I was just happened to be in a group of people. There were a number of people that I had just met who loved the Great Salt Lake to death. You know, they just, the exquisite open sky and the wildness and the starkness of it. And so I asked them if they would like to do an Earth Exchange there. And really the idea for the Earth Exchange came out of my association with this group. And so they were all about it, and we ended up doing it in 3 disparate places around the lake because it was such a huge thing, and everyone did their own exchange in different places. And then other times when I've tried to explain it on Facebook or just, you know, talking about it without one-on-one, it's a bit harder because there's something in, like Trebbe was saying, you know, when you hear Trebbe talking about it, because of the energy she has and the love that she has, it really communicates. You know, you can communicate heart to heart. So it's about, for me anyway, it's been about finding those people that are already feeling sad or wounded about a particular place.
Eugene, what do you tell people when you tell them about this?
Yeah, well, I think I'd also like to just say, like, to make a plea for it's okay to be alone. You know, that actually, I think for me, like some of my, really doing an Earth Exchange on my own is really important and powerful, actually, and because I'm not alone. You know, when I get over myself, you know, doing it alone, like I'm actually really in with the environment, alive with the environment, and everything there is alive with me. And I stop looking for things, and I start listening. and then it's not an alone experience at all. And I think for me that really captures the spirit of the Earth Exchange, because then it really is exchange. It really is exchanging, you know, and that can be, yeah, really beautiful, in the true sense of the word. But I think with people, when it comes to other people, the name is great, you know. Global Earth Exchange, you kind of get it, don't you? It's kind of, you get it. It's like, wow, you get it, but you don't get it, you know. But it's enough of a name to be, you know, allured by it, because it's, you know, it's global. So it means like people around the world are doing this today. You know, there'll be a lot of people around the world doing that, which is great. And it's art, and it's an exchange. So everything is in the name. And I think even just, you know, explaining what the name means does a good job of inviting people to it, you know. And then I think just on a practical level, when there is something like, you know, I was talking about the Olympic Village, like I was saying to my friend, like, oh my God, look, I pass this every day and everybody's celebrating like that they're building over this place. And she went, yeah, oh yeah, I feel like that too. You know, it's like, you know, it's like if you just kind of say what you feel to somebody, then, you know, it's like, I was saying to somebody, you know, with my jab injection recently, I went and had my jab injection. I was really moved. I almost was in tears. I just found it like this really moving experience for some reason. And then I felt silly saying it. Then my friend said, I did too. I was almost in tears. So I think there's something just about, you know, just saying it, you know, saying like, you know, to a friend, this place, I've always thought XXX, you know, and then it gets a response. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I have to confess that I came up with this idea, this well, it was more than an idea, with this impulse to make beauty for hurt places many years before Radical Joy for Hard Times was born. And at first I wondered, like, is this just one crazy idea from a white woman in America? You know, is this relevant? And what we have found is that people all over the world really do participate in it. Different people of all different kinds of religions have participated in it, from Balinese, Hindu, Buddhist, Jewish, Christian, all different kinds, and Mormon. And that it has transcended background and profession and ethnicity. So we've had farmers in Bali doing it, and scientists in Antarctica doing it, and teachers and little kids, and just listening to what Eugene and Kinde were saying about inviting people, I was reminded of something that a young man named Noah Crow said when he was on our very first group of people who worked to form the organization. And he said he was trying to get us to have an elevator speech to describe Radical Joy for Hard Times to people. And then he said how he starts out is he just says to somebody, have you ever had a place that you really cared about and then something happened to it and you felt sad? And people practically always have an answer in their mind. So so that's one way of really of doing it. To realize, I think what's helped me too is that a lot more people are going to get this than I sometimes am afraid they will. And if they don't, that's okay, because as Eugene and Kinde both indicated, it's the people who are ready to do it that are going to want to do it. So, so let's move on and talk about what we do when we get to our place. As I mentioned in the beginning, the Global Earth Exchange has 4 parts. So the suggested parts. One is go to a wounded place, alone or with friends. 2, sit a while and share your stories. In other words, share what this place meant to you both before it was damaged and now that it has been damaged. If you go alone, you can just reflect on those things, you know, but it's about It's about taking time to be there, to kind of settle in and not rushing in like we typically do when we do confront something that needs our attention. It's like we rush in and I've got my shears and I've got my trash bag and I'm going to get to work. This is about letting the place get into us and absorb us, and so we can be absorbed by it. And then the third one is get to know the place as it is now. And that's important. And both Eugene and Kinde have referred to that as well, that you take time to see what's going on there and to listen and to smell and to see what's growing and what's surprising. And there are often a lot of surprises in this kind of, in this part of it. Like I remember once being with a couple of people in a huge pit in Florida that had for many years been, people had gone for hundreds of years, gone and they dug clay out of it to build houses and roads and things. And in recent years, the Air Force had been using it to practice artillery bombing. And so we were walking around by ourselves in this huge thing. And I was feeling really kind of discouraged about it all. And then I noticed there were all these swallows and they were nesting in the holes in the rock where the artillery shells had blown holes. You know, they had moved right in. It was an opportunity for them. So that's the kind of surprise that I'm talking about. That's step 3. And step 4 is make a gift of beauty for the place. And it's really steps 1 and 4 that are most important. You can do all kinds of things in the middle, but going there in person, not meditating upon it, not thinking about it in advance, that's important because it's a way of saying, I can face something that I don't think I want to face. I can go and I can be with this hurt place like I would go and be with that hurt friend. And the 4th one is so important because that's what really makes the difference. That's where the radical joy and radical joy for hard time comes. It's making that act of beauty. And it's knowing that even though you can't necessarily fix a hurt place, you can't rebuild trees or unpollute a river or put the top back on a mountain, you have the power to do something beautiful and creative. And it makes an incredible difference. I mean, I can't even begin to explain what an incredible difference it makes. And what we recommend is making your gift of beauty out of materials that the place itself offers. Sticks, stones. As you could see in Kinde's picture of the heart, there was trash in there as well among the rose petals that somebody brought. Make something out of the stuff that the place itself offers you. And this year we're inviting people as part of this gift exchange idea to bring something of your own and weave it into your act of beauty for the place. You know, some object, some little object from your life that represents what you've been through in this past year, this past very difficult year for most of us in the world. And then, you know, maybe reflect on it, share stories, offer a song, offer a hope for the place and for one another, and then take that object back home, knowing that it's been part of this, this creative gift. So, so those are the 4 steps, and people have done all kinds of things in between. They've done very elaborate ceremonies, which have lasted a week. The people in Bali, they don't spend time sharing the stories about what the place means to them because that's just not part of their culture. They go and they offer traditional prayers, and then they make beauty. Oh, Kinde, Katie, can you show that picture of the Balinese? There's a wonderful picture of the Balinese. They did a global earth exchange 2 years ago for a clove. The cloves in Bali the buds have been falling off of the trees because they've had such unseasonable rains for such a long time. And this is a village where I have spent a lot of time. It's in northern Bali. And so they went up to the clove forest and they made this incredible bird. And there they are in their ceremonial dress. And they've been participating in the Global Earth Exchange for many years as well. Thanks, Katie. So So those are those are the steps, and there's all kinds of things to do in between, as I said. But and it can be very creative. So I'd like to get Eugene and Kinde to give examples of what you've done on your global Earth exchanges, and also like what the effect has been on you. So Eugene, why don't you go first this time?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I just using the example of the wasteland at the Olympic Village. So myself, my friend, we made this sculpture thing. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, out of objects, out of all the trash, and there was kind of like bits of old shoes and stuff, just all this kind of rubbish, I guess, in there. And we built this this mound, and then we put a Radical Joy for Hard Times flag on top of it. And I don't really think we knew what we were doing at the time, but actually, I think what that Olympic Village was all about for me was that this event was getting so much global attention and had so much voice in the media, but actually the land had no voice. It had absolutely no voice. So there was something about this mound that we created with a flag which gave it voice. It was triumphant, and it was its last kind of call. And even looking at the image now, it's just kind of this triumphal kind of call, and it gave it voice. Gave it, for a moment, it just gave it voice. And I know, as a psychotherapist, I guess that's really important for me, that neglected things have voice, are given voice, and actually sometimes it takes others to help give that neglected place a voice. That. So I think that was what that was about. Yeah, definitely that was about. But also at the time, we didn't know. We just kind of got into it, and we just kind of saw what was around, and it made, and it was just, it just kind of happened. And I think that's okay. It's not, if I get caught up too much in meaning making, like I have to make this grand gesture in response to how I feel about this, I just can't do it. It just becomes something else. So I just really rely on my senses, and particularly touch in times in that, like touching things, touching what's around and feeling what's around, and just going with that. And yeah.
Well, I have to say, I love what you said about giving the place a voice. I think that really expresses well what, there's your collage from what you and Louise did last year.
Yeah, well, actually, so we did it. So that's me in my backyard and my friend Louise in her backyard. And actually, everything we did was so about touch and so about intimacy. And I think that it was, at a time when everybody was being isolated in London and no one could touch. There was no touch. Mm-hmm. And suddenly we're making these images of touch, like touching the ground, putting my hand in water. It was, so that was definitely, thinking of the theme this year, that was definitely a gift to us, at a time when, humans were so desperate for touch, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, and we often suggest that people do make a bird for their act of beauty, because the first year we weren't specific about what an act of beauty should be, and it's telling people, make a bird. Everybody has birds. You learn, you make birds when you're drawing, when you're just a little kid. Birds fly. Birds are part of the Rad Joy symbol. Birds sing through the night, even in the midst of war. Birds will sing through the night. So a lot of people have made birds, and then if you've looked at the stories on our website, you'll see all these incredible birds that people have made out of all kinds of stuff. And they're not about being beautiful, as Eugene said. They're about making a gift of beauty. And what you said, Eugene, about giving the place a voice, I think that conveys what seems to happen when you do this practice. It's like something of the real essence of the place comes through. It ceases to be just this place that's got damaged, and you walk or you drive past it and you don't really see it and you have a certain opinion about it. It's like some kind of sweet, innocent aliveness comes through in a place when we pay attention to it. And we hear all the time, people will write to us after they've done their Global Earth exchanges, say, I can't believe it, I fell in love with this place. So Kinde, tell us about some of the things you've done when you've done your Global Earth exchange.
Yeah, like in terms of those steps and creating beauty and the effects that it has had on me. There's, it's different when there are more people. And like Eugene said, doing it alone was very interesting. I did that one time. The main kind of thing that I would say about all that is that this whole process is so native to us as human beings. It is so indigenous. It's really in our bones. And also, as Eugene pointed to, you don't have to do anything grand. It's the way we are as human beings. We very naturally relate to the more than human world and the natural world in a certain way when we slow down and stop and pay attention. And then we are naturally creative as well, very naturally. So anything you make is beauty because you're making it from a place of having connected to that place, having listened to it, and have given your heart to it and saying, I'm so sorry. So that connection that is made is beautiful in itself. And then whenever you make something, that is the expression of that actual experience. So I've usually, and because I've done them earlier in the when Rad Joy was just starting this, and before there was a suggestion to do a bird, and there was something about, well, just make whatever comes to mind. And the people that I was with would one person would do something and then someone else would build on it. And it became then a community group building thing too, between the people. That actual creative process brought us together because we were working and building to get something together. And I've done both birds, but I've also just made abstract art, just like assembling things that are found and arranging them and putting them in a particular place. So this photo is of an abandoned mine pit that is just north, right exactly north of the edge of Salt Lake City and along a freeway. And it's a place that I've driven past a lot and had, all my life driven past. And so one year thinking, where do I want to do a Global Earth exchange? I decided to do it by myself. I was driving by there and I was like, oh, I wonder what's that? I was curious about it. So it took me a little while to even figure out how to get in there, but I did, and I found it. And it was very interesting because it was all surrounded by all this busyness, but it felt very hidden and very wild in the sense that it was hidden in the midst of a city, an intermountain region. And there was a bunch of old clothing from somebody that had been living there, like a homeless person that had camped at some point. And so that, like Eugene said that time when I did it by myself, there was really an intimacy there, because I could dance, or I could be spontaneous in a more free way somehow, as by the freeway. And I just collected these pieces and sort of arranged them on a rock, so it was clear that a human had been there, but I wanted to make something beautiful out of the discarded bits of metal, which the rust in themselves was just beautiful. And then afterwards, now when I drive by, I look at that place, which you can't even see, it's kind of hidden, and I know it. I know that place. I'm intimate. We're friends, you know?
Yeah.
And I can just, like I've said, I can just wave hello as I go by.
Yeah, I actually quoted you in my book, Radicals Way for Hard Times, that you talked about how when you drive by now, you will wave a loving hello, you said. Because it's like what Eugene was saying about the voice. It's like all of a sudden, the place becomes something different. Some kind of aliveness emerges that,
Yeah.
some kind of aliveness, innocence, intimacy emerges that wasn't there before. Yeah, and what you said also, Kinde, about people participating in making the bird, I think that's very important, because so many people tend to think, oh, I'm not an artist, you know, you all go and make the bird, I'll just stand back and watch. And it's really important for everybody to join in, because that's the gift, you know, that's the gift to the place. And I was at a conference in Portugal a few years ago, and we did an earth exchange there for a place that it was, they were digging a big pit in order to collect rainwater so that wildlife would come. And they'd already made one of these, and now they were going to make another. And it had really, I mean, trees were growing and animals were coming and birds were coming. And so we didn't have a lot of time, and there were about 40 people. And then we all pitched in to make this bird. And there were a few people who didn't think the bird was very good, and it was too fat, and it didn't look like a bird. And yet it was, you know, that was our bird. And somebody said, well, it's a fat bird, and so it'll float when the waters come. So, you know, it's again, it's not how good it is. It's that creative act that you put into giving to this place. Using things that the place itself offers. That's the transformation. That's the empowerment. And speaking of empowerment, that's how I want to just close before we have time for questions or responses from people who are here. So how you can go in whatever order you'd like to go, Kinde and Eugene. Like, what does the global Earth mean to you? How does doing this process affect you or change your attitude about a place?
I'll just say that it restores our native relationship with Earth, which is living being to living being, and it can change everything. It's potentially can make a massive change in how we respond, how we hear the Earth, and so how we treat it, which is radically important in these times. So it's potentially a transformational process that is really critical, I believe, right now.
Thanks, Kinde. Eugene?
Yeah, I actually, just before we started, I was telling the guys that on my way to work every morning, I touch this tree. I just touch it. I just like quickly touch it. But I've noticed that, how I do, that of course the tree touches me. And actually the sensation of touch stays with me for, I don't know, a couple of seconds as I'm walking to work. But so the tree stays with me. So So I think the global earth exchange for me is it's about touch. It's about reaching out and touching the earth, and it's about the earth reaching out and touching you back, touching me back. You know, I love, Kinde, your word intimacy. You know, to experience the sensation of intimacy with earth. And for me, it's really important that it's not dramatic. You know, it's not like I'm saving the earth. No, I'm touching the earth. I'm just touching it, and it's touching me back. And you know what? That's really important. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I find that doing this practice is there's always a shift. You know, there's always a shift than there is when you just go to a place for other reasons. There's a sense of being empowered, like, oh, I can face things I didn't want to face. There's that. There's also, I may not be able to change the circumstances of this place, but I can give something. I can create a transformation, and I can be transformed in the process. And there's that sense of intimacy, which really does. You just have a sense of intimacy. I always have a sense of it's like the kind of the sweetness and the aliveness of the place come forth after I've been there for a while. And I believe too that it helps. Doing this kind of work really helps us to approach other hardships in our life in a different way. It does help us to know I can face things that I don't want to face. I can go through really difficult times. I can find beauty no matter what the circumstances. And I can make beauty no matter what the circumstances. I mean, that for me personally, that's been a huge lesson over these years of doing this work. So it's a beautiful process, and thank you all for signing up for it. And since we have some extra time, and there aren't many people on the call, let's have time for changes. I mean, for questions or comments, or for those of you who have already done earth exchanges, you might want to have. You might want to reflect on something. So just, I guess you could just unmute yourself and start speaking if you have something you'd like to add, or put something in the chat.
I have a question and a request. When you are allowing the place to speak to you and then choosing your objects, what ethical frame do you use for choosing living objects like leaves and well, anything that's alive and still growing? Because I've had some difficult experiences around that historically. So I'm just interested, and I'm wondering if at the end, Trebbe, you could just go over the 4 steps. I kind of got a little lost, so I wouldn't mind a repeat on that.
Sure. And I will definitely go over the 4 steps, and they're also on our website. If you go to radicaljoy.org and go to Global Earth Exchange, you'll find them. Okay. And as for, I mean, personally, I don't pull out anything that's alive. You know, I use things that are available and don't have to be uprooted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Good to meet you.
This is Dia Campbell-Dietrich, and I'm talking from Oklahoma. And Eugene, I love your voice. I love hearing you talk. But being Okie, I just, when I was hearing you all speak, first of all, thank you. That just really did move me. But on a huge, I just thought about this with Oklahoma City and all the trauma we've had to deal with over the years. With the bombing in '95, and how the community got together after that and created this beautiful museum, but then they also created this beautiful, Pam, help me, I can't think of the name of the calming water, but they had a place where all 168 individuals that perished, there's a place
It's a
that-
memorial. It's a national memorial now.
Yes, yes. But when you walk in, and it just blows me away. When you walk through, there's 3 stones, and one says 901, and then on the other side 903. And then when you walk through at 9:02 a.m., that's when the
Wow.
bombing occurred. And so it was just really, it's just a place where it's very peaceful. And then the other thing that brings it really back to nature is that there was one tree that survived this horrendous act of violence. And it has grown through the years, and it even survived a recent ice storm back in October. And they took care of that. And then every year they have little seedlings that they pass out to people who want them. I mean, it's just to me a way that I'm thinking they're bringing it back to the earth, and in a way of remembrance and stuff too. But yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I've seen the memorial, well, pictures of it, not in person. And it is beautiful the way that city and that state have dealt with that event. I mean, I think it's really incredible. And we have a group in Afghanistan that does that works in their permaculture garden every year for the country of Afghanistan. And we've had a young woman in Ukraine who makes birds for her country. You know, she just all by herself. And we've had school kids in Haiti making birds for their country. So it is possible to do a global earth exchange for a big place that's like bigger than you can possibly go to or sit on. So
I have one other question and then I'll be quiet, but I'm speaking to Eugene. You're a psychoanalyst, is that correct?
Yeah. It's like, yes.
I'm a registered nurse and I teach nursing now. And what are your thoughts on maybe forming a group with, your clients, or maybe with my students, to go and talk about this and kind of see, what are their thoughts and reflections over it? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, actually, I do work outside, so I do work with clients outside. But for me, that might be a different thing. But for with students, that sounds great. That sounds great. Yeah, I love that idea. Yeah, I just have about the memorial. I just was really touched by that, how they captured the moment.
yeah,
Just capturing the moment, in that way, and it's just. Yeah.
It is beautiful. I want to add one more thing that I would encourage you to look it up and look at pictures. So many people had loss with that, and my son's best friend's dad at the time, they were 5, perished in that, and they have a chair for every 168 people, part of them being children, and the chair lights up at night. So that's a big macrocosm of doing something that the whole community came together through tragedy. But yeah, if you've never seen it before, experiencing it is of course always different, but just being there. And one time we were showing a friend from out of town when her kids were younger the site, and ironically my son was with me, and his buddy didn't know we were there, the one who lost his dad. So to me, I think it's an energy showing when I was thinking about this healing part, the ice storm that Dia talked about destroyed a lot of Oklahoma City, and my tree that I bought this house because of the tree, it's over 100 years old, suffered a lot of damage. And I've really talked to her a lot. So I thought, whether we're going for our small tree or survivor tree, I think experience, and then hearing all of you all and talking about worldwide, experiencing that energy that we all have, whatever it may be. So yeah, I feel grateful for this time. Thank you all.
thank you.
I do have one other question. I'm sorry. This is just so fascinating. But I'm speaking to Kinde. Is that right? Kinde? That's a pretty name. When you showed the picture of the lot and the puddle, the pool that was shaped as a heart, the first thing, and this is just me being very pragmatic now, is that this lot, did you have to climb a fence? Were you afraid of somebody coming up and shooting you? Seriously, that's yeah. What were your thoughts on that?
That's a good question. Yeah, we kind of found a hole in the fence.
But that is a
And-
good, oh, I'm sorry, Kinde, go ahead, then I'm gonna ask.
Yeah. And somebody, actually a photographer who was a business owner adjacent, came over and said, "What are you guys doing?" You know? And when we told her, she was like, "Oh, can I take a picture of you all?" So yeah, we were probably being slightly radical about that, but you know, we made a heart. I don't know if that's probably not advised to call through the fence, but it'd been so many years, you know. I mean, it's people really were not watching that lot or caring about it at all. Good question.
Well, we do recommend, I mean, officially, that you don't break the law and definitely don't do anything dangerous. Like, don't go into a toxic place. Do not crawl over the fence and go into a Superfund site. But people have gone into places that are locked, but you know, personally, I don't usually. You know, I've gone to gas fracking sites where I'm not supposed to go, but that is the recommendation. Anybody else?
Yeah, I could talk.
Sally, yes, good. I was going to find you and ask you if you had something to add.
So yeah, we've also done it at a site which was going to be a fracked gas repository or something. I don't know what to call it. And it was part of a protest, but we didn't protest. We just went to the woods which were going to be destroyed. And we walked around and we made a bird and gave energy to it. And it worked. They didn't build the fracked gas thing there. So we're actually thinking about doing it this year at a site where there's a cement factory about to be built, to see if we can make that one not happen either.
Good. Well, we're just about finished with the time. So thank you all for coming. And I'm not sure, I don't think I said this before, but everybody who signs up, the first 100 people who sign up get a little yellow banner. I don't have any right with me, I don't think. I did. Well, I don't know where they are now. There's a little gold banner, a hand-painted banner that says Radical Joy for Hard Times. And we're also on the very verge of publishing a book of 10 years of the first 10 years of the Global Earth Exchange. Not all the stories are in it, but a lot of them, and some wonderful photos. And there's information on our website. And please do contact me, Trebbe at radicaljoy.org if you have questions, or write it on our Facebook page. And thank you to Kinde Nebeker and Eugene Hughes and to Katie Case, who kept her video undone throughout the whole thing, but she was the one who was admitting people and making sure everything ran smoothly and showing the picture. And we have, I'm going to be sending you all out a form that you can fill out to put down what happened at your Global Earth Exchange and submit some pictures, and it'll go onto the website. Automatic. It's very easy. You don't need a password. You don't need to check anything out. You don't need to belong to anything or download anything. So yeah. And then right after the Global Earth Exchange, maybe a week after, we're going to have another webinar where people can share the stories of what happened. So hope to see some of you then. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Trebbe. Bye all.
Thank you.
I can
Bye.